My Daughter's Keeper presents The Fortress of Death by Joe Denver. Special presentation by Soundgrounds. Episode 1.
There, in the dim light of dawn over the town of Herdus, the shimmering waves of Lake Kor stretch from shore towards a dark shadow on the water. There in the distance, the black crag of stone, the Isle of Kor, lurks in the darkness, seemingly untouched by the rising sun. Flickers of strange energy surround the foul island, a field of eldritch magic, struggling to contain the evil within. At the heart of this lightless blight, a black-walled fortress can be seen in the brief moments where the hemisphere of emerald radiance fades against the brutal onslaught of the terrible power that constantly seeks to escape its imprisonment. Rage as it might, the prisoner inside the dark stone citadel remains trapped. All efforts have come to naught, its freedom denied for more than a millennia. This vile keep of shattered iron and blackened stone is Khazan-Ud, known throughout Magdaman as an edifice of pure evil. Once the bright and perfect demoncy of Lord Zada, an elder Magi of Desai, it became as dark and corrupted as its master when Zada betrayed his fellows in a war that slaughtered many of his immortal kind and loosened many monsters upon the world. Joining their powers together with the aid of the gods of light, Kai and Ishir, the elder Magi forced Lord Zada back to his citadel along with his most devoted followers and abominations. There they erected the Null de Tet, the massive shield of magic that prevents Lord Zada from leaving his island exile and prevents him from affecting the world beyond the shores of the Isle of Kor. The Elder Magi tell this story to all who inquire about Khazan-Ud, and for the most part they believe it to be true. But for many years it has become apparent that while Lord Zada is indeed a prisoner of his Black Keep, his influence is not quite as contained. A vast dungeon has been excavated beneath the fortress, its labyrinthine halls stretching out to the limits of the Null de Tet, and down as far, so far that many among the Elder Magi believe their ancient, treacherous enemy may be close to slipping his bonds at long last. It is in this hour of greatest need that you have come, a traveler from a distant land with a grand task of your own to fulfill. The Elder Magi have agreed to grant you a Tet Nolo, a power key. This translucent red crystalline orb fits neatly in your palm, its core swirling with sparks, spiraling mist and flares of gold and silver fire. This gem, filled with power from the Elder Magi that guard against the evils of Khazan-Ud, will grant you passage through the Null de Tet. All the rulers of Desai ask in exchange is that you fight the forces of Khazan-Ud and defeat as many of Lord Zada's minions as you can during your mission. Someday, the fallen Magi might escape the Isle of Kor and renew his bloody war of conquest against all the lands of Magdaman. When he does, your victories against his dark army could be the difference between victory and defeat. With one last check of your equipment and a final farewell to your hosts, you board the Silver Star and set across Lake Kor. The ominous sight of your destination looms closer and darker until its night-black walls are all you can see. This is where your journey begins, and where, if you are not skilled, careful, and lucky enough, where your life and your adventure will end. Welcome to the Fortress of Death.
No pressure, then.
Under the gloom of grey clouds and a darkening sky above, you are lowered off the edge of the Silver Star. Your small skiff descends onto the crashing waves, lapping against the hull of the caravel that has brought you this close to the Isle of Kor, but dares come no closer.
Row fast, row hard,
Shouts the crewman, turning the winch above you.
the lord of the castle doesn't like uninvited guests.
Using the skiff's lone oar, you shove off against the hull of the Silver Star towards your destination. The black stone beach over the island looms close as you steer the small grey wooden craft to its only safe port, A narrow stretch of colorless sand in a barren crescent of beach. On either side, ominous basalt breakers rise like skeletal fingers rising from an unquiet grave. There is little sound now, despite the turbulent waters of the lake, the gusts of wind around you, and the scathing storm about to break overhead. It almost feels as if Magnamund itself is trying to keep you from landing ashore this cursed isle. The long shadow of the dark fortress itself falls across you as a sudden crack of lightning splits the sky. All at once, sound returns in a wake of thunder. You can hear the beating of the current against your skiff. The spiraling gale of the Isle of Kor shrieks like a tormented spirit. Beyond the ebon spires of the ruined fortress, the sky roars as a violent tempest erupts, coming down so hard that the rain hurts your skin. The lake is becoming too chaotic to control your skiff. Each wave smashing into you with the force of a wrecking ball. If you cannot reach the shore before this terrible storm destroys your ship, your mission to Khazan-Ud will end before it even has a chance to begin. Rowing with all your might, you steer for the gray sand beach.
Okay, it's time for a strength test.
Struggling against the raging current beneath you and the press of winds billowing around the island, you manage to row closer to shore. The strain of your effort is almost more than the oar can take. You hear it groan with every press against the water, pushing you towards the shore by a few inches each time. The fierce downpour makes it hard to even see where you are going, but you are committed now. You pray that you are still aimed at the beach, as the jagged black rocks on either side would dash your skiff to pieces if you stray too close in the storm. Finally, the oar snaps, and your small craft starts to overturn as a high cresting wave forces its left side almost straight towards the sky. In desperation, you grab your belongings and leap forward off the skiff. A few moments of hard effort later, you crawl up onto the sandbank and roll over to your back. The painful rain is almost refreshing after nearly drowning. Through the haze and chill of this vicious storm, your only focus is breathing and the thunder of your own heartbeat. Just past the stretch of drenched gray sand, you see dark stone, the broken ruins of a small building, and a path leading inland towards the massive husk of black rock that was once Khazan-Ud. What remains of its central tower looms like the shadow of death across the Isle of Kor, casting everything around you in deep darkness every time the fortress is silhouetted by lightning strikes. Before you can press on, the sound of your skiff smashing into the breakers echoes across the beach. The skiff was supposed to be a way back, your transport back to the port of Hardos. Once the storm passes, you might be able to find another skiff or rowboat somewhere along the shore, but for now you are committed to the journey ahead. Khazan-Ud awaits. Though the fortress does not seem to be far from shore, it would be a difficult trek in this downpour. You can barely see a lance's length ahead of you, making further travel dangerous until the storm passes. Even dim moonlight on an overcast would be better than what you have right now. It might be better to seek whatever shelter you can find and wait out the rain if you have no way of even seeing where you are going.
Okay, I'm being given the choice to explore a small ruin nearby, find shelter amongst the rocks around me, or press on despite the dark and the risks involved. Well, I've been told this is not a good idea, so I'm going to explore the nearby ruin.
Though there is little left of this building now, you can see from its construction and position near the island cove that it was once a guardhouse for the fortress beyond. Likely 2 stories or more before it fell to ruin in the war that brought this island and its dark master low. It is mostly a hollow husk, a single span of stairs that lead up to nowhere, and a corner of the 2nd-story floor that forms a section of leaking roof about 8 feet wide. A flash of lightning suddenly illuminates a leering, feral face staring right at you from the nearest broken wall. Even as you reach for your weapon in surprise, a second flash reveals it with a stony grin of a gargoyle carved into what remains of the building's outer rampart. Smiling at the humor of your panic, you relax just enough to release your grasp and start walking towards the shelter of that partial roof. As heavy as this storm is, you doubt that you will be able to reach the fortress of Khazan-ud until it finally breaks. Before you make it more than a few steps past the gargoyle, something uncoils from the shadows beneath the partial stairwell and strikes.
It looks like we're entering combat, and given that I've already lost 2 endurance points, I do not favor my chances. Let's see what happens. Looks like we're facing off against a hideous worm thing. Let's see how this goes. I hit it for a juicy 8 points of damage. Let's go again. I hit it for 9 points. I take 2 in return, but I am victorious.
With the hideous worm-like creature dispatched, you can seek shelter under the leaking ceiling. The walls of this ruin serve as a windbreak, allowing you to weather the tempest outside without getting soaked to the bone or struck by the constant lightning outside.
I will now be waiting out the storm. Let's see what happens beyond this.
A dim light eventually starts to shine through the thick clouds overhead, marking both the approach of dawn and the end of the malevolent maelstrom that has barraged the island all night. Your shelter was barely adequate and hardly comfortable, but it did keep you out of the worst of the storm. There is still a light rainfall, but the lightning has passed. It should be safe to continue into the ruins of the Dark Fortress itself. Shadow cling to every bluff and spar. The tempest-tossed landscape around you is littered with the remnants of several old structures destroyed in the years of war that drove Sada beneath his castle and ended with his exile beneath the power shield that surrounds the island. The only edifice that seems intact is a tall pillar in the distance, one of the monuments of the Elder Magi that project and anchor the Nal Detet in place. Without them, the evil that lurks here would be free to spill forth and threaten Magnamund again. You grip your power key, its smooth weight reassuring and warm. You thank the gods that it was not lost during your dive into the lake last night. Without it, you too would be trapped here. Once you are ready to depart, you leave your shelter and turn toward the ominous citadel at the heart of the island. Though you do not have far to go now, you also know that reaching Khazan-ud only marks the beginning of your journey.
Let us proceed towards the castle grounds.
Even though the sun has risen, the gloom over the island remains. Shadows cling to every broken wall and scattered chunk of masonry strewn around the ruins of Khazan-ud. The final battle that was fought here, the deadly siege that drove Lord Sada underground, was a titanic clash of ancient magic. Evidence of the immense power wielded by the Elder Magi can be seen in the blackened craters and devastation all around you. Huge pillars of dark stone lie in pieces, while the front gates of the fortress are completely buried in the rubble of the 3 stories of stone that once towered above it. Most of the debris here is shattered, but some resembles huge flows of cooled lava, and some parts of the outer castle walls have been blasted to naught but dust and ash. Despite the massive damage done to the walls, most of the fortress still exists as a hollowed shell of basalt and twisted iron, riddled with holes and splits that drive deep into the ground. None of the gaps and breaks seem to lead anywhere but into impassable cave-ins and piles of rocks and weathered detritus. With the front gates buried and the post in collapse, the main entrances to the citadel are gone. To actually enter what little is left of Khazan-ud, you will need to find some other way inside. In the distance, around the sunrise side of the ruin, you hear at least 2 gruff voices. From the crunch of stone beneath their feet, they are on the move and coming closer. You have little time to react before you are set upon. You could rush forward, bringing the fight to the creatures about to come around the corner of the fortress wall, Otherwise, if you do not want to confront this unknown patrol, you need to find a place to hide.
I have the option to take cover and wait, or assault the guards. I'm not so keen on my odds of two of them. I will attempt to take cover.
You take refuge within a pile of old stone blocks twice your height, pressing yourself into its deep recesses to wait for the voices to approach. There are small cracks between the stones where the mortar has long since desiccated and blown away. Through them you watch as three shadows come around the farthest wall of the fortress, shades that slowly resolve themselves as beastmen, virile humanoids often pressed into the service of dark powers. It should come as no surprise that they would be here on the Isle of Kor. Before his exile, Lord Sada amassed a huge army and turned them on the people of his own nation. His war of conquest was stopped and his soldiers devastated, but some remnant of his forces must have joined him in captivity here. These beastmen might well be descendants of that army of darkness. Twisted and vile, they stalk closer on splayed paws wrapped in black leather. Their bodies are clad in makeshift armor of tattered cloth and tarnished chainmail, thick tufts of scarlet fur poking out through the open gaps. With beastly faces and glowing amber eyes, they look around the stone-littered courtyard as they approach. Just before they reach you, you feel the lakeshore breeze begin to shift. You had been downwind of them, your senses assailed by their bitter musk, but now the air is turning back the other way. If they catch the scent on you, they will be on you before you can flee.
Okay, let's roll the dice and see what happens. Am I in trouble?
The moment the wind shifts enough that the first of the beastmen can catch your scent, he snarls something in their feral language. He points directly at the stones where you are hiding, the other two guards quickly moving to flank you. They do not see you yet, but you only have seconds before you are spotted. With no choice but to fight, you lunge out from behind the pile of fallen blocks and catch one of the beastmen unprepared. Though you do not cut the savage sentry down, you wound it sorely. Bleeding, it falls back for a moment, while the other two rush in to attack.
Combat has joined, I have entered the fray. Oh well, let's see how this goes. Take 4 damage back. Attacking again. 3. That's 6 damage. Take 3 back. That's a 7. 10 damage. But I am victorious. 13. Let's see how this goes. Continuing on.
You crouch over the bodies of the guards, silent and still, in case there are any others coming. When the island answers you with silence, you drag their corpses to the nearest pile of stones and conceal them the best you can. While you can do little for the bloodstains, you note with some dread that theirs are not the only signs of death left behind on this battleground.
I'm going to take a moment to drink a potion of Lamspur, which will give me 4 endurance points back. I only have one of these, and I only have one use of it. But, given how injured I am, I intend to go through with this. I will drink the potion. That will give me 17 points out of 29. I'm going to pick up the spear that was dropped. Okay, I managed to pick up the spear that the beastman dropped. Let's head deeper into the ruins.
Though the fortress is still massive, dominating the heart of the island, most of it is just blasted stone and collapsed floors inside hollow towers. Searching diligently, you find several ways into the courtyard and past the parapets, but you discover nothing at the end of any of these paths but burned-out devastation. The Elder Magi were thorough in their defeat of Lord Sada, though even their power was not enough to end his threat forever. Instead, they could only contain him here. If the island is barren and its ancient citadel a charred wreck, then the true Khazan-ud can only lie in one direction, down. Continuing your investigation, you hunt for several hours. avoiding the patrols of beastmen by staying close to what little is left of the battlements and outer towers. Noon brings little relief from the pall of shadows that seems to cover the Isle of Kor, though there is a little more light now. The height of day also seems to slow the frequency of the patrols. The beastmen move slower and are only traveling in pairs now. While this does make them easier to avoid and gives you some hope of defeating them if you must engage in battle, you also worry about the implications. If they are sluggish and wearer by day, what awaits you if you encounter them at night? That is all the more reason to find some way into the depths of Khazan-ud by sunset. As midday tide starts to wash in from the far side of the island, you step up your efforts.
Hunger gnaws at you now, distracting you from your search.
I'm not giving you much choice here. I unfortunately am going to have to eat the one meal that I have on me.
Your hunt is finally rewarded late into the afternoon. You discover 3 possible paths into the depths of the fortress. Whichever one you take, the sun is now starting to wane. The beastmen will be coming more frequently now, and in greater numbers.
I have a number of options here. A nearby crater seems to break into a larger cave below. One of the towers has a stone spiral staircase going down to the darkness, and a glistening trail descends beneath the ruins of a bulwark. This may be crazy, but I am going to take the stairs.
Stepping into the abandoned tower before the next patrol comes past, you crouch low and check the stairs before trusting them to carry your weight. They are solid stone, encrusted in dust and grime, but seemingly stable. Indeed, they might be in better shape than the tower itself. As quickly as you can safely move, you descend down the stairs into darkness. But once you make your first full turn and the light above you is lost, there is a sudden dim of radiance on either side of you as small clear crystals set in the walls begin to glow. Their white light is soft but constant, illuminating the area around you and downward for another 2 turns of the stairs. There, a second pair of crystals light your way as you reach the bottom of the spiral and a tiled stone landing. Once you set foot on the landing, the first set of crystals fade out. The second pair start to glow brighter, however, revealing what lies at the end of a short corridor ahead of you.
I don't exactly have much choice. I must walk the corridor. Let us see what lies at its end.
The light reveals a mostly collapsed passage beyond a doorway of rusted metal, fallen stone blocking most of the corridor beyond. Past the many sharp shadows of rock, a narrow passageway can be seen winding between them before turning to the right and vanishing beyond the rubble. The stench of wet rot and old mud is strong here, almost overwhelming, but you have no time to wait. Tearing a strip of cloth from your threadbare tabard, you wrap it around your face to keep back the worst of the foul odor. Then, moving as quickly as the confined space ahead will allow, you crawl past the old metal door frame and into the perilous passage before the beastmen behind you arrive. You are almost too late in your escape. A few moments after you force your way into the collapsed hall, more than a dozen feral figures rush into the room where you were. They snarl and howl, roaring at each other in frustration. They must have seen you leave the room or assume that because they could not fit in this mostly blocked corridor, you could not either. Regardless, the mistake is your salvation. This corridor is hard to traverse, but the beastmen do not seem willing to pursue you here. Still, your progress is slow and painful, with the press of broken stone catching your clothes and tearing at your skin as you fight for every foot forward. Your armor protects you from the worst of the jagged debris, but you still do not reach the end of the collapsed corridor unscathed. Past the cave-in, the hallway around you is far different from the ruins you were exploring before. Once you can finally stand and stretch your weary arms and legs, you can take stock of your new surroundings.
Thank you for listening, and as always, a huge thank you to our Patreon members who help to keep the lights on, the microphones running, and the Eldritch Horrors properly contained. In particular, we'd like to thank Daniel Gregory, Karen Morgan, the dwarven host of the Grim Lores podcast, Gerald, and Adam Keedwell. If you'd like to join their ranks, head on over to patreon.com/MyDaughter'sKeeper, where you will gain access to a growing library of exclusive scenarios you won't find in the main feed, entry into our members-only Discord community, behind-the-scenes content, and even the chance to pull up a chair and join us for Patreon-only games. Whether you're here for cosmic horror, heroic fantasy, sci-fi survival, or simply to watch otherwise sensible people make catastrophically bad decisions with dice, there's plenty more waiting for you. Till next time, keep your lights on, your eyes open, and remember which game you're in when somebody suggests switching the party. Good night, and good luck.